would be nice if there was a one-size-fits-all path to success, wouldn't it? An individual's blueprint for success is as unique as their fingerprints are. I'm Gary Cornwell, president of Galactic Performance Solutions. As someone who didn't come from much, I had to come a long way to get where I am today. In the end, I did find my way, and I want to help you find yours too. I may not have the exact answers for your circumstance and how to build a successful life, but what I know for sure is that you have those answers within yourself. Welcome to Beyond the Blueprint, the podcast that focuses on helping you become the best, brightest, and most financially secure version of yourself. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Beyond the Blueprint. My name is Gary Cornwell. I'm your host. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. I really appreciate it. So the last time that we got together, we talked about several things, and I kind of gave a little teaser as to what this episode's going to be about. And it's about something that some people would consider to be controversial, for lack of a better term. And that is the fact that it's okay to say no. And sometimes is it not only okay, but it's the absolute right route to go. But before we jump into that, I want to know if you did your homework. Number one, did you make your bed today? I did. And I was actually thinking about you guys when I made my bed because I knew I was going to say that today. And I hope that every single one of you did, whether you knew you were going to be listening to this episode or not. I hope you've made it part of your routine because it is much more important than you even realize. In addition to that, last time when we talked about overcoming adversity and how adversity itself and the trials that you experience, they refine you. They don't define you. They make you into a better, sharper, more honed version of who you are. So between the last time we talked and today, did you think about an adverse situation in your life and how you dealt with it? And are you better off because of it? I'm pretty sure that every single one of you can think of something that you didn't want to deal with. It was adverse to you in one way, shape, or form, but you had to deal with it. Whether you chose to, like you wanted to hit it head on, or it's something that you didn't have a choice but to deal with. But I'm sure that something like that existed. And I'm sure that after you got through with it, you were a better version of yourself. I hope that you recognized that. Okay. Back to today's episode. We're going to talk about the power of saying no and why that's okay. One of the biggest causes of unnecessary adversity is saying yes when you know the answer should be no. And what I mean by that is that you're committing yourself to either do something or to not do something, or you're saying yes to somebody else or some other situation because they've asked you to, but that's not necessarily what is the best route for you to go at any given time. And saying yes when you should have said no can lead to some adverse situations. So today we'll be diving into the most powerful skills that you'll ever learn, or one of the most powerful skills that you'll ever learn. Not productivity, not networking, not goal setting. It's the ability to say no with purpose and with peace and without guilt. And that's the biggest part right there. That's one of the biggest parts anyways. Doing it without guilt. This one word, no, can protect your energy, your dreams, your identity, your future, your goals. It is a way that you can add to yourself, to your family, without overextending yourself. So if you've ever felt overwhelmed, stretched thin, or like you constantly are serving everyone but yourself, this episode is definitely for you. You don't need permission to protect your peace. But if you need it anyway, here it is. You are allowed to say no. I encourage you to say no. That doesn't mean say no every time. You need to do things for others. You need to be a good friend. We talked about that in previous episodes. But there's lots of times when it's okay to say no. And here's something extremely controversial. It's okay to say no to a customer. Matter of fact, it's okay to fire a customer. If you're not getting what you need, or if your company's not getting what you need out of the situation, it's okay to end that situation. Now, you need to be careful. Don't do it too quickly. But if you've given it the time, effort, energy, and thought that it takes to be able to come up with the right solution and the right answer, if the answer is no, then the answer is no. It's also okay to say no to finishing the book. I mentioned that in the last episode. You guys have heard me talk a lot about, I truly believe in reading. I believe in reading anything from a magazine article to something online to actually physically getting a book. Whether you read it or you listen to it, that's your call. I specifically like to read it myself. I tend to absorb it more if I am actually reading it and I comprehend it and I retain it. But with all that being said, I've started a lot of books that actually some of them that were highly recommended to me that I didn't finish. And the reason I didn't finish them is because I wasn't getting something out of it. That book's tone or the information that it was providing was not something that was pertinent to me, at least not at that time, or it was not something that I could resonate with. And I can't remember the name of the book, and I probably wouldn't say it if I did, but I read one book a while ago that started off really pretty slow, and I had high hopes for it to pick itself up. And the middle part did a little bit, but then it started to get slow again. I'm like, you know what? I think I've gotten everything out of this that I'm going to get. There was too much of a narration in it. It was too much of a story that I couldn't resonate with. So I feel like I got some positive things out of the book, but I didn't finish it. And that's okay. You know why it's okay? Because it's okay to say no. If it isn't giving you what you need, put it down. Find one that will. Give your permission to say no to the book, just like you've given yourself permission to say no to other things. Those other things could be people, situations, dinner events, parties, social gatherings, industry events. I'll get into that a little bit more in a bit when I talk about some specific things that I've experienced over my life. But before we even get into that, why is it that we struggle so hard to say no? Well, the myth is that saying no means that you're selfish, that you'll be letting somebody down, or that you might be missing out. There's a lot of us that have FOMO, fear of missing out. I am blessed, in my opinion, not to have that. That's not something that weighs me down or gets me to overcommit to things. But I do know a lot of people that have FOMO, and they will say yes to everything, no matter what it is, because they're afraid they're going to miss out on something. Well, all of that I just mentioned is a myth. But what's the reality? Saying yes to everything is actually what makes us less reliable, less impactful, and ultimately less aligned and apt to do what we really are meant to do. There was a time in my life when I would say yes to every opportunity, every meeting, every favor. I thought I was being helpful, but I was really just being stretched too thin. And nobody gets the best version of you when you're saying yes to every obligation, because if you're stretched too thin, nobody gets the full attention from you that they deserve if you say yes to everything. And the person who gets it the least is you. And the person who should get it the most is you. So by saying no, you're actually protecting the things that mean the most to you, but you're also able to give more to the situations where you do say yes. So think of it this way. It's like trying to pour from a pitcher that's already empty. If it's empty, there's nothing else that can come out. You can tip it all you want, but there's nothing coming out. And at certain points, there's no way it's not going to happen to you. There's only so many hours in the day. There's so many days in the week. So weeks in the month in the year, so on and so forth. There's only so much that you can do. And what I know about you, because you're listening to this podcast, is you're already doing more than the average person. So you as an individual, really have to guard what it is that you're willing to do or what you are accepting the responsibility of doing. So let me give you an example. There was a particular day, I feel like it was a Tuesday because I really had something I had supposed to do on Wednesday, and I ultimately decided, you know what, I've had enough. And for me, it changed everything. Next day, I had 3 back-to-back meetings. Like, there was no time to get from one place to another. They were back to back to back. 2 phone calls I didn't want to have, and the big kicker was a dinner that night that I really didn't want to go to. I didn't see any value in it to me, and I didn't see value in it to those that I was going to be having dinner with. It was not a social event. It wasn't having dinner with friends. It was a It was a work event, and it was more of a just showing respect to each other, I guess, but it was unnecessary. And I almost felt like this person was in town for something else and invited me to dinner. And I think they invited me because they felt responsible to reach out because that's what you're supposed to do. And then it made me feel responsible to say yes because that's what you're supposed to do. And neither one of us wanted to be there. So I got home that night and my youngest son said, "Dad, did you have a fun day today?" After all the stuff that I just talked about. And I had to pause for a second because not only had I not had a fun day that day, I didn't even remember being in the day. And what I mean by being in the day is I was just going from task to task to transaction to transaction. I didn't take any time to be in the moment so that I could think, that I could plan, that I could move things forward that needed to be moved forward. I was too busy doing the things that I said yes to. So basically, I just survived the day. It wasn't a bad day, nothing went wrong, but nothing happened to move forward. So I basically stole from myself. I stole from my company. I stole from those who rely on me, and I stole from my family because I said yes way too much on that particular day. So that night, I opened my calendar and started deleting meetings, deleting commitments, events that I had said yes to out of guilt, not out of purpose. On that night was the night that I learned that every yes I give away time that takes away from something or somebody that really matters. So let me give you a very specific example of that. Years ago, when I was younger in my career, specifically in the career with Galactic, the main thing that we do is group incentive travel. Well, incentives in general, but one of the big things that we do is group travel. And so there are industry events all over the world that specifically focus on that. When I was younger, I was taught and I agreed and I thought that I should attend every event that was offered to us. And then I realized that some of those events, when I was going to them, there was no opportunity for me or my company or my family to sell something or to move forward. It was really about being there and being present for vendors who wanted to sell me something or wanted me to donate money for a different foundation or different things like that. There was a lot in it for them. There wasn't a whole lot of it, a whole lot in there for me or for Galactic. And so, again, when I first started doing it, I thought I was afraid of not doing it because I thought that it would make the company look bad. I thought it would make me look bad. But then I realized I'm trading time that I could be doing something that is positive for the organization or positive for me or my family and giving it to somebody that they were getting the vast majority of the benefit for it. I wasn't. So I still go to those events, but rarely. And I don't even know if I'd say rarely, much less than I used to. That's probably a more accurate way of saying it. But I decided that it was time to say no. And to my surprise back then, and I'm glad that I realized it now, it didn't have any negative effect on me. It didn't have any negative effect on the company. I do have people specifically within our organization that question that at times, but over the last 25 years that I've been doing this, I have come to realize that it's just not something that I want to spend my time doing. So let's talk about 5 signs that it's time to say no. I'm going to break it down into internal signals that are telling you it's time to draw the line and how you should probably listen to them. So number 1, you feel resentment before you even said yes. So if you thought of saying yes makes you feel drained, anxious, or concerned, you probably already know that the answer should have been no. If somebody asks you to do something, and again, it could be anything. I tend to, right now, my mind is on all these different events and dinners and things like that, but it could be anything. Again, I'm not telling you not to be a good friend. I'm not telling you not to be a good coworker. I'm not telling you not to be a good spouse or parent or friend or anything like that. There are times when you do need to say yes when you're not excited about something because you're fulfilling your part of a role within that individual. But especially if there's absolutely nothing in it for you and it's just a casual relationship, take a look at that before you say yes. Number two, you're sacrificing your priorities for somebody else's urgency. Just because it's urgent to them doesn't mean it needs to derail your focus. I'm probably going to butcher this saying, but it goes something to the effect of a failure to properly plan on your part doesn't equate an emergency on my part. And that goes for a lot of different situations. Now, where it won't go is if it's your boss that's asking you for that. And when I say your boss might be your customer. So this is not black and white, guys. These are kind of guidelines for you to try to live your life by, but there are always exceptions. So if it's an emergency for your customer, maybe it does need to derail what you had your focus on, but you need to try to deal with it quickly. And if you've got somebody else that can handle it rather than you know what? I should listen to my own advice on this one. But if you've got somebody else that can do it as well as you can, or at least almost as well, you should probably let them deal with it. Number three, you don't have the energy, but you say yes anyway. Think about it this way, guys. Energy is the currency of life, and you need to spend that currency where it matters the most. And that could be on things that have to do with your family. It could be living a life that you feel fulfilled by. It could be taking your business or your job or your career to the next level because you're focused on that and you need the energy to do that. Don't let other things or other people zap your energy to where you're not able to focus where you need to. Number four, you're afraid of disappointing somebody. I have news for you. Saying yes to just avoid conflict is actually saying no to your own boundaries. In addition to that, you're not going to be able to keep everybody happy all the time. You probably are going to disappoint people relatively often, but that's okay because you need to be protecting your time, your effort, your energy for the things that matter most. You can't worry about disappointing somebody else. Again, there's always different shades of gray. This is not a black and white rule, but try not to let guilt, which is really what the fear of disappointing somebody boils down to. Try not to let guilt force you into doing things that you probably shouldn't. Number five, you say yes, but then you immediately regret it. Well, that gut feeling, you should trust it. Regret is your body's way of reminding you of your values. And it's also your body's way, your mind's way of protecting you from yourself. Because sometimes we will overstep. We all do it. And we need to be careful to try not to do it any more than we have to. Again, there will be times when you have to, but more often than not, it's a choice. So what does saying no actually mean? So let's reframe it. Saying no doesn't mean you don't care. It means you do care. You care about your time. You care about your focus, your health, your family, your mission, your life, what it is you're trying to accomplish. That's what it truly means. Every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. Make sure what you're saying yes to is worth it. If you're saying yes to a dinner and your child they had something happen at school that day they really, really want to talk to you about, they're really excited about it, but you said no to a dinner that is, going back to my example earlier, a guy that was in town felt like he was beholding to invite me to dinner, and I felt beholding that I was going to go. If I actually went and my child had something they really wanted to talk to me about that night, I would have missed something that adds to the relationship that's going to be there for the rest of my life. Who knows what's going to happen with the guy who I may or may not have had dinner with. Learn when to say no, because it's going to take, every time you say no or every time you say yes, it takes away from something else in your life that might matter more. If you're not required to set yourself on fire to keep other people warm, then you don't owe anyone explanation of honoring your own limits. So what does that mean? You're not responsible for everything. Not everybody is owed an explanation of why you say no. It's not their business. You are just doing what is right for yourself. you're doing what's right for your family. So, how do we make saying no a habit and not a conflict? Be brief but clear. Thanks so much for thinking of me, but I won't be able to commit to that right now. So, you're not using the word no, which some people think has a negative connotation, but effectively you're saying no. So, that's one way of just kind of moving forward and saying no with confidence. You can also offer alternatives when appropriate. I can't take that on personally right now, but you might reach out to some other person, somebody else that is on your team that could take it on. Now, what you don't want to do, and I'll give what I think is a great example of this. I get calls all the time about different IT suppliers. They want to provide this, they want to provide that. And what I don't want to do is I don't want to tell them, well, I'm the wrong person to talk to. You need to talk to this person who is in charge of that in our company. Especially if I know they're not going to be interested in it. Why am I going to pass the buck and then force that person to be the one that says no? Just step up, say no, and move on. You need to set boundaries without guilt. I'm working hard to protect my time and energy this month, so I have to pass. That's a little bit more touchy feely than what I personally probably would do. But I'm trying to give you examples of what might work for you. And basically, you can phrase it the way you want to. But I'm taking time to make sure that I get things covered that are priorities to me. Some people they might take that negative. If they do, they do. Again, that's not one that I would use a lot, but everybody's different. So set up your go-to phrase and have it ready and ready to go if somebody asks you something. So your go-to phrase might be, let me check my responsibilities and I'll get back to you. Most people know what that means. The old saying is, and it probably works both directions, but if a man tells you I need to ask my wife before I do X, Y, or Z, or I commit to X, Y, or Z, the answer is that he really didn't want to do it. And the same thing would go, I would imagine, if the wife said that as well. So not that people shouldn't talk to each other, but you almost are guaranteed that that's a polite way of saying no. And so if that's the way that you want to handle it, handle it. But, out of these examples, my favorite one is thanks for thinking of me. And I use this one a lot because, again, I get invited to tons and tons and tons of events. There's no way I could go to every one of them. I would never have time to work. I would never be home. But I always tend to tell them, thanks for thinking of me. Please continue to consider me in the future, but I won't be able to commit right now. That's the one that works the most for me, but you need to figure out what works the best for you. So practice it over and over and over again. Saying no isn't just a skill, it's a muscle. So it's like any muscle, you get stronger the more that you use it. Now, what I don't want you to walk away from this episode thinking is that I think you should say no to everything. Don't. I think you should say yes to every single thing that either improves your life or improves your odds of the outcome that you're looking for. But the vast majority of things in life, especially the further down your career you go, people are going to be asking you for things that don't really bring value in a lot of different cases. But it's not just down your career. I mean, if you're a college student and somebody's asking you to attend a party and you know good and well that you should be studying or that you have a commitment with either a close friend or a family member, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it is, it's okay to say no. I would encourage you to say no. This comment has power throughout the entirety of your life, no matter what phase of life that you're in. So what are we going to do for your homework this time? What I want you to do, well, I hope you're using a calendar. And for you, maybe it doesn't work. I shouldn't say that I hope you're using it. For me, calendar is everything. If it's not on my calendar, it doesn't exist. I put things on my calendars as a reminder in 15-minute segments to do this, to send this email, to call this person, to read this report, to many, 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 many different things. So I use a calendar for everything. It doesn't mean that you should. But if you do, whatever it is that you use to keep track of tasks, I want you to look at it and come up with one thing or one task that doesn't align with your current priorities. Whatever that is, again, it could be that somebody's asked you to go for a jog with them, or attend a party or an event that's a charity event, different things like that. I definitely believe in attending charity events and donating and things like that, but there's only so much that you can do. And once you get on the list, you're getting asked by everybody. So between now and the next time we meet, I want you to take a look at your calendar. I'm using calendar in air quotes, and pick one thing that doesn't align with your priorities and just say no. You're not going to do it. Say no to one thing this week that isn't serving you. Just one. That's your practice. You need to say it with kindness, but confidence. You can say no with kindness. You shouldn't, again, I truly believe in being kind in every circumstance that you can. Sometimes you can't, but when you can, that should be your goal. Say no with kindness, but have confidence in what it is that you're doing. So for a bonus, write out a no script that you can use the next time somebody asks you to commit to something. Keep it handy and make it yours. I told you what my main one is. That might not be what yours is. Maybe it is. I don't know. But come up with what it is, because this is not something that's going to go away. The further you get down the road of your life, the more that you're going to need to do something like this. So, final thoughts. Every no that you say today makes space for more meaningful yeses for tomorrow. And remember, you're not less kind or less generous or less committed just because you protect your peace and you protect your availability for things that are truly adding to your life. It means you're wise and you are worthy of protecting that. You are, your family is, your future is, all your goals are. That's what you're doing in this. Protect yourself. Learn to say no when it's appropriate. Next time on Beyond the Blueprint, we're going to dive into the power of starting small. Because a dream doesn't need to be huge to be worth starting. You just need to take the first step. And you might not know what the entire dream exists of at that time, but it's just like eating an elephant. You have to do it one bite at a time. So we'll talk about that more next time. Until then, stand firm, choose your yeses intentionally, be kind to one another. And don't forget, I believe in you. Write that down. Thanks so much for listening. Please follow our show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And write us a review. We'd love to get your feedback. Beyond the Blueprint is sponsored by Galactic Performance Solutions. It's written and researched by yours truly, Gary Cornwell. Producing and editing is done by the team at Resonate Recordings. Until next time, remember, you do have the answers. You just have to make the effort to find them. I believe in you.